Did you lean on the monitor button? You guys good? Kills you. Talk louder or I'll kill you. Remember, your audience is over here. There. Stop. Let me know when you're ready. I'm just sitting in the class pad right now. Oh yeah. Whenever you, it's 11 o'clock.
Hi everyone, we're going to go and get started. Just to let everyone... Okay. Just let everyone know this is going to be live streamed to our Facebook.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you.
Okay. This session is going to be live streamed to our page on Facebook and will be uploaded to YouTube at a later time, just so everyone know. Today we're going to be talking about creating a team image in First Tech Challenge and what this looks like and why it's so important, especially as you begin to use the medium of social media. One of the most common questions that comes up when talking about a team image in terms of First Tech Challenge is why? Why is it so important to actually have a brand for a robotics team of all things? Why should you even try to promote your team and get to your community? This answer is probably going to be this answer isn't set in stone for anybody, and it's probably going to be different for all of you. But no matter what, forming connections with your community is a key part of being not just a First Tech Challenge team, but being a part of First as a whole. Talking to businesses in your community can help gain your team finances and the funds you need for a season in terms of sponsorships. Talking to schools in your community can help get new members for your team, or even lead to a new team being formed. And just getting the word out, that your team exists helps to give it a face in your community. Also, throughout First Tech Challenge, there are several judged awards that have to do with your efforts to create a team image and outreach to your community. The Connect Award is given to a team that is actively trying to reach out to its community through outreach events and is trying to make an impact on the world, on the local companies and businesses in the community. The Motivator Award is given to a team who has a very strong team presence and image that's actively trying to sustain local first programs throughout its community. During this presentation, there are a few themes that you're going to see repeat themselves, and this is for a reason. We are talking about your team image, and for most instances, this image you put out is the only thing everyone else is going to use to figure out what your team does and what you stand for. Because of this, if you because of this, you must be conscious and careful of what you put out under your team's name. As for us, as soon as anything has that gear logo on it, or has our team name or number, we know that is not going to be a direct reflection of what our team stands for and what we do. Be smart when say you're posting things on social media, and because you must be prepared for a lot of people to see this and to then think of your team because of it. Second, be consistent. This is perhaps the key part to building a good team brand, because if you use one logo here, another one here, and some random colors now and then, no one is going to be able to remember your team. If having a consistent brand makes it much easier for people that you come into contact with to later meet up with you and like find more about you later on because your consistency has stuck in their head. Third, be unique. If your team's blends in with every other team and say anything that really makes it stand out, you aren't going to earn a spot in someone's memory, and therefore you aren't going to make as much an impact on them. So these few things are things that you really have to be thinking of when you begin to build your team image and brand.
While it may seem quite trivial, your team name is a key part of your brand. Without your team name, you won't have a good foundation to start your whole branding off of. Our team name is a good example of this. Our team is the Gas Attendants, and as you can see, our logo has a little gas station guy. Our uniforms at competitions consist of suspenders, bow ties, and hats that the old gas attendants would wear. And essentially, without a good team name, you won't be able to set a good theme that goes along with that. Most of you probably already have a team name, but if you don't have one or you're thinking of reconsidering, here are a few things that you should think of. One, we often hear teams that are robot something or something bots, and the problem with these names is they tend to blend in with the crowd, and it's harder for you to stick out, and it's harder for you to make an impact in the FTC world. Another thing is that most teams don't realize this, but your name doesn't have to have anything to do with robotics at all, or even technology. Like our team name, the first thing that you think of when you hear the word robots isn't a gas station on your street corner. So don't be afraid to go outside the box and think of a completely random name and brand to base off that. Now, if you're running into a roadblock with that, the best thing to do is to brainstorm with your team. You can also look through your team's history and beginning and see what your team can do, or you can look in a book. That's something we can do. Our team name came about because one of our team members saw the 7-Eleven in our number and went, hey, that reminds me of the gas station. So feel free to be creative and do whatever best fits your team, and just have complete randomness that you're able to use and stick out. Another good example is the team Veer Left. Our sister team, they got their name from the 4 members that were left and decided to move up to FTC. Veer, which actually means 4 in German, leaving us with the 4 left. But they've used their branding and every part of their team to use Veer Left as in the opposite of right. So with their creativity and going through their history, they were able to use a really cool logo and brand and have 2 meanings for it almost. So again, feel free to just be super creative. Nothing is outside of the box. You can have anything you want to be.
So you've all probably heard, as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this definitely applies for your team logo. Most people have an easier time remembering a logo than a name. You definitely want to capitalize on this as far as your logo goes, as when it's correlated to your team name, people will remember your team, and you guys will pop out in the crowd more. And another thing that's important too is if you're running into a roadblock, just start simple and build off of that shape or design and make it into something that you want. So, let's see. When people see this, we want them to think 8711, the gas attendants, and this is overall the effect that you want your logo to have. You want it to remind people of your team name, who you guys are, and it doesn't necessarily have to reflect robotics like we mentioned earlier. We've gone through many different iterations of our logo, and this is the final one, and we're still changing it a little bit year to year, but it's not usually a good idea to change your logo each year, as it usually unravels the branding progress that you've made throughout the year. So here we have some examples of what not to do with your logo, since it's really the only visual representation that your team has of itself over internet and stuff. I mean, you don't want to invert it, stretch it, switch the logo, or make it look unprofessional. Use it professionally, and this definitely helps for when you're reaching out to local businesses seeking sponsorships. Because if you lazily apply your logo, you could possibly ruin these opportunities. So, and it might be a good idea to use a vector image file where applicable, because it draws your logo using lines instead of pixels. And this is important because when you blow your logo up, it won't lose quality, and it will still look just as good as it did at its normal size. So here we have some good examples of logos. This is mainly what you're looking for when making your logo. You want it to be correlated to your name. It doesn't have to be, but that helps, and it should also be memorable. Pie eaters, for example, they have the actual symbol for pie above a pie with a slice out of it. And once you've seen or heard their name, their logo is hard to forget, making this a very effective logo. And as far as Team 9789 Toxic's logo goes, this is also memorable because they have a radioactivity symbol, and that's directly related to their name, Toxic. Also, they have put their logo on literally everything they've done. Handed out their robot, shirts, pins, flyers, everything. And that is also something that you should do to define a strong team image. You need to make sure that just put your logo on almost everything, but make sure it's applied professionally. And the reason we have Cybot's logo is to show that your logo can still be memorable, even when it's not directly correlated to your name.
As you begin to deal with more online applications and any handouts you print out or any printed materials, a thing that's going to keep your branding in even places when you aren't there, such as in your handouts on a website, is to use things like a color palette, a certain set of fonts, and any kind of like background patterns or anything that you want to use in your digital applications. Assuming that like a key part of your team presence anywhere is going to be color. As really a good thing to do is that as soon as your team forms, or like the next time you meet, is to pick a main color for your team, because most likely at events, as you walk through pits, you are going to notice how teams that have a very strong presence have their color everywhere, so they really pop out from everybody else. However, as you begin to create any logos or documents on your computer, you may run into issues of having mismatched color things, which obviously you don't want. This is something that you don't want to do because it's going to damage your how much it looks like you're trying to be professional and keeping everything consistent. What we have been able to do this year is to define a specific color palette, which we know that these are our colors when we're creating anything for that to print out or online. We always use this black color font on text on a white background for any handouts or documents that we create. And since red is our team color, our accent color has been defined here. We also include hex codes and RGB values to just make sure that everywhere that we use color is the same. And this helps us tie all of our materials together and gives us a strong presence in just our materials. Here's some good examples of teams that have really taken a color scheme to heart. Team 1989 Toxic, their team color was purple, and they put this on everything they did. Like just from these pictures here, their pits were covered in purple. Their robot had purple colored materials on it, and everywhere you saw them, there was the color purple, and that really helped to set their team apart from the other teams, and in terms of their presence at events. Teams 35C37, the Good Hamsters, are here today also, and pretty much any team in Indiana, once they see this orange camo pattern, are going to think of their team, because they've done an excellent job of on everything they did, everything they have done, and is therefore quite effective. Now, creating this kind of this degree of relation between color and your team is going to be quite difficult, but it is important for you to actually choose a color and that everywhere you can, as soon as possible, to help increase your presence and brand. Another thing that's quite important to keep consistent in terms of your digital applications is typefaces. When you go to create handouts, you're entering a notebook. If you're doing that from types and really anything that involves typing on a computer, you are going to want to keep your font the same. This year we chose to we elected to use the font Stardust Stencil in all our materials because we like the kind of workshop feel that it gave is it's a central pattern. But there are some other fonts up here to think about as you begin to select a font and build your team brand, such as Roboto, Contra One, and so on. Once you choose a font, and if you're able to keep it consistent, it's going to be all the things you put out are going to look much more streamlined and as if much more thought was put into them. So that's something that you definitely want to have happen once you begin to do things through applications. As all these things that we've talked about in terms of your team brand, once you actually start to draw these up and determine what to look like for your team, you are probably going to notice that the actual issue of keeping them consistent is going to be something that you're going to have to tackle. It's sometimes maybe the team chose one color to use something, but then someone else wasn't there for the meeting, so then they go off and use the wrong color or the wrong logo, and so on. To solve this, and something that we have seen teams in FRC do, and which I see this year, is create a set of branding standards. Where basically, it's a clearly outlined document or page of what your team can do in terms of a logo, such as logo applications, colors, fonts, uniforms, and just and overall how to keep your branding consistent. We created a 7 or so page document, which we are going to be putting on our website if you want to see that later. That outlines, for example, you see we have our how to handle our team name, what it is and what it's not. Also, we have our color palette, how to handle our logos and things like which logo to use on which background. And if you are able to create a document like this for your team and then give it out to all your members, it's going to ensure that your brand is consistent everywhere, and it will get rid of the problem that you would have if maybe some people aren't informed of your brand, and this will only help to keep it consistent. As we wrap up the portion of our presentation about brand today, we did want to give credit to and kind of tell you guys about FLC Team 254, known as the Cheesy Poofs, who are pretty much the kings of team branding in FRC. So much so that this color of that Justice shade of blue is known as Cheesy Poof Blue now. They publicly published their set of branding standards on their website, and they have great materials to be looking at as you begin to build your team brands, and can kind of determine how it applies to you. So this is a good thing to check out and kind of be using as your model as you begin to build your brand.
Well, we all know team identity and your team brand is really important, but you're not going to be able to promote your team if you don't have a place to put all that. Now, you can't just spend 24 hours a day going to competitions and meeting teams or having outreach events every single day to promote your team. So a great way to promote your team is through social media. Social media is a wonderful resource for meeting other teams. You can talk to them, have a collaboration with the team that you've never met before, or you can just make a new friend in the FTC world. Another wonderful use for social media is to thank sponsors. And you can also schedule events with your community through social media. Another great use of social media is just outreaching to family and friends, and then they can see everything that you've done in the robotics program and put out there. The key part of social media is being able to choose what platforms you want to use. You really need to think about what audience you want to reach and what content the certain platform has. Now, during this next section, we are going to be talking about what social media platforms we use and what most of the FTC community uses. And we hope that this will help you consider if your team is planning to use a new one or you haven't even started social media yet.
First off is Twitter. For any of you who don't know, Twitter was founded back in 2006 and had quite a small audience for a bit. But in the last 5 years or so, it really started to pick up steam, and now it is really up there with the top social media platforms in terms of its audience size. Something that the good thing about Twitter in terms of its users is that it has the largest FTC and first base of users by far compared to the other social media platforms. So much so that really to find a team, it's easy as searching FTC and then their number, and most likely they will already have a page. So Twitter is the go-to place to be able to contact other teams and hear from them. Something that is specific to Twitter is that its tweets or the posts made through Twitter are limited to 140 characters or less. This leads to a this can be seen as a pro or a con because while having only 140 characters makes for great short tweets, so it's just not spending like hours going through a timeline trying to read posts because they ought to be kept short and concise. And this makes Twitter a great place for short team updates, pictures and videos because they also support media. But with this size limit to tweets, Twitter is not going to be the place to post long, detailed updates of what's happening. So it's not going to be the place to post maybe like a summary of what just happened at your recent tournament or something like that. Yeah. And something to keep in mind when you're using Twitter is that you cannot edit tweets. So once you press like post and tweet, you can't change what you said. So you would have to either
Can you delete the tweet?
yeah, you can. So to change your tweet, you'd have to totally remove it, which gets rid of all the retweets you had and likes you had, and then repost it. So when you're doing things on Twitter, read over them very carefully. Maybe consult other teams, like is this okay to post, like grammar errors, something like that, and then post. So yeah, Twitter is probably going to be the one you use most, and as you begin to venture out into social media, just keep that in mind because of its audience and its nice, concise post size. So here are some examples of tweets. One is from us, and one is from Ether Robotics Center, which is where we're based at. This is a team update that we posted about how we recently created a model of an early prototype for a cliff grabbing idea, and then how we turn that into real life by actually constructing it out of actual pieces. And then over here, this example of how Twitter is a good place to promote outreach events, because during our fundraiser at Urban Swirl, E3 tweeted out that we were there to try and gather an audience, so people would come by, and also a picture of what we were doing, just to get the word out of what we were doing that day.
So next is Facebook, which you probably have all heard of at some point. A plus of Facebook is that it has a huge public audience, and most companies and businesses have an active Facebook page. Different from Twitter, Facebook does not have a limit on the size of posts. And then another plus of Facebook is that you can post a ton of pictures at once using an album. Something different about Facebook is that you can use an event and promote that event to the people that view your page, manage photos, organize photos and videos. and you can integrate more easily with other social media platforms. Facebook is a very good tool for your team. Now, with this being said, Facebook does not have a large FTC or FIRST community, so it is more difficult to interact with other teams here. But having an active Facebook page is still a good way to promote your team. So here we are. We created an event to show that we were at Five Guys hosting a Give Back night. And here we are at the Indiana FTC State Championships. We created that album. So Instagram is a relatively new social media platform. You can only post pictures and videos with an optional caption. And Instagram has a relatively large FTC and FIRST community, which continues to grow rapidly. Then here's the example. So here is us helping out at a FLL kickoff, and then we are showing what we were doing at an Indiana qualifier.
Is your Instagram associated with your Facebook, or is it?
Yeah, you can set it up so that your all pictures on your Instagram are then put into a Facebook album, and there are things such as if this then that, which can link all your things, which we are going to talk about a bit later. But yeah, Instagram is owned by Facebook, like it is the company. So yeah. So the last public social media that we're going to talk about is YouTube. YouTube, unlike the other social media platforms, you aren't going to be as frequent on YouTube because it really is the place for your longer videos. All you can post on YouTube, it's a video sharing platform. The only thing that you can post is videos, and typically you aren't going to want to post those videos that you just took on your cell phone of your road doing something. That those belong more to something like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. On YouTube, all the videos you want to put out should be edited and thought about, and maybe planned out beforehand, or maybe scripted. Some things that other teams have done, and we have too, for in terms of YouTube videos, is a recap of an event, maybe footage from a match that you were in. You can create a series where you give information about a topic that your team knows a lot about. Maybe some team update videos now and then, and also something that a lot of teams do is a final reveal of the robot where they showcase all the abilities it has, and goes through all the work that went into it, and kind of at the end of the season as a recap of how you guys did. So yeah, YouTube, not used by everybody. It's not critical in terms of social media, but if you do find yourself wanting to create media and videos such as that, YouTube, it will be the place to put them. Now, as your guys' team continues to grow, you may notice that it's kind of difficult to kind of communicate with all your members. Slack is a form of social media that's not really public, but it is similar to the service called. It's basically like one big group chat for your team that's organized into different channels. We have a channel for programming, build. Each team has their own channel because we have one big Slack team. And what Slack allows you to do is to use various plugins to such as Google Drive, your Google Calendar, and it's just you can add all of your team members to your Slack team and just have easy communication to everybody just to help get information out there. Another thing with Slack is that we actually created a Slack application called FTC Bot, which can let users search the rulebook. It can get information about a team, certain events, and search the rulebook and things like that. So if your team doesn't want to use Slack, you can talk with the station of using tips. It's a great tool to use if you run the problem of it's difficult getting the word out if your schedule changes, something like that. As you're probably going to notice when you begin to look at social media, is that there are a lot of social media platforms out there. And there are some that really aren't the best to be using for your team. Starting off with this is LinkedIn, which is it's a site used to post job resumes and maybe short updates about who you are, so you can help find a job. And it doesn't make sense to have a page for your team, as it's just not relevant. As no one's going to be looking for your team on LinkedIn, and it's not relevant. Snapchat does not. Snapchat is a platform that's more for people like just for talking to friends and like posting like more. It's more individual. Most businesses and teams don't have a Snapchat because it's just not. Since teams also probably aren't going to be looking for you on there. Google Plus has a very small audience. No one really posts anything or is looking through it, looking for anything on Google Plus. So if you want to spend you wouldn't really want to spend the time posting on there and spending the time developing your page. Tumblr is kind of just a place for random things, so it's not really relevant. If you see, and Flickr is kind of I guess you could say the predecessor to Instagram. It's an old photo video sharing site that's also a very small audience, so you should stay away from that too, and just stick to ones that have a broader audience, aren't so obscure anymore.
Yes, he had a question.
Oh,
You had a question?
good question.
Oh, I have study.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of the social media platforms that we've mentioned earlier do actually have live streaming capabilities. So live streaming isn't completely necessary, but it's always nice to bring people in, and it's more interactive than just normal videos. So before you live stream, always let your audience know what's happening while it's happening. It's not very useful to live stream if your audience doesn't know what day you're doing it or when you're doing it. And it's not very likely that they'll happen upon your live stream either. So always be careful too while live streaming, because once something is out there, you can't take it back. You don't edit your video, and then upload it. It's just directly sent to whatever social media platform you use. There's YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and there's also Twitter Live. So you can use any of those to live stream. And then, like I said before, it's not very necessary, but it's definitely nice to bring people in and make everything more interactive.
So this is kind of just some tips to consider as you begin to create your pages on social media and begin to interact with other teams and people in your community. Is that you should be professional on your social media pages, because everyone's going to see these pages. You don't want to be like posting random things, and anything you put out is going to be a part of your team image and what people are going to think of you, and you having no image or like no presence on social media is certainly not good, but having a bad one that looks unprofessional is something that's much worse. So just be conscious when you're posting. And second thing to consider is be active on social media. Don't just make a page and just never post anything on it, because people aren't going to want to follow you. People aren't going to want to interact with you, send you messages, other teams. So post often, leave replies or comments to other teams' posts. Maybe ask them questions too, and just try and interact as much as possible with other teams. And this will help you create friendships and allies with other teams in the community, and can even lead to your team learning more things just from speaking to others. Read over your posts before posting, because it's always good to have someone else read it over too. If it's like a grammar error, or maybe something that should be reworded or added more detail to. So don't just go posting things without your team's permission. Consult at least somebody else and try and get information about that. And something that's really important to social media is consistency across all your social media platforms. You're going to notice that it's going to give you the option to choose a handle, which is your @ sign. So ours is @ the gas ATTD FTC, and we keep this the same across all of our platforms, so that if someone finds us on one platform, they can easily just go to another one and then find us there. If all your names are different, you have different logos, different bios, different handles, no one's gonna be able to find your team once they find you in one, and then it's going to make it harder for you to establish a strong presence in social media. We are going to be putting this presentation on our team website, so you can go through these resources. We got information from FRC Team 2x4 and FRC Team 1678. If you want to look at those resources too. And we can also bring up our social media pages now, kind of give you an idea of what those look like. So we're gonna start with Twitter. This is what our Twitter page looks like, and it's going to be pretty consistent across everyone's. You have your profile or avatar here, which is what you should make your team logo, and make sure to get that the same, and make sure it's a good resolution, it looks nice. Twitter changed the thing to a circle recently, so we have to scale it down to get it fit correctly. Here's our bio, as it's called, which basically is a short description about our team, what this page is about, who we are, just so it's clear that we are a First Tech Challenge team. We have a number in here. Since they can't fit in our team name up here, there is a limit on your Twitter page name. So keep that in mind. If you're making it really long, you can really shorten it. We have our location here, so it's easier to tell where we're based. We look at our website, which is also something you can do on our social media platforms. And here are some tweets that we have. This is actually from Thursday when we actually pre-conducted this presentation. You can also retweet things on Twitter. So say if you see something from First or First Tech Challenge or another team that's interesting and that you want to share with your followers, you can retweet this. Here we have pictures getting on. And as you can see, most of our tweets have a picture in them. Actually, pretty much all of them do, because tweets with pictures in them tend to get a much more have a much more impact and engagement on your followers. Let's sign in here. So, yeah. Here you can see our Twitter also gives you your analytics in terms of how many people have seen your tweets. In the last 20 days, 12,000 people have seen our tweets, and that's a great tool if you want to gauge if you need to have more work done in terms of how much you're posting and how you're getting the word that you have a Twitter or have an Instagram out there. If you're seeing those numbers who may want to post more often, maybe just look at a thing. What you'll see a lot of is that since there are so many FEC teams on Twitter, we tend to follow as many as possible, just so that we can meet these people. And really, what'll happen is that a lot of them will follow you back, and then you can talk about strategy or just meet new teams. And that's really a great thing about Twitter. Also, a thing they can do is replying people's tweets. You can see more of our text-based ones here are actually replies and not media. Because if you like see a team's post and maybe want to ask a question or say good job, Twitter's a good place to do it. Next is Instagram. As you can see, same logo. We have the same handle too, and so Instagram has only pictures. So everything you post has to have a picture, and the caption doesn't even show up. You have to click on the picture or tap on it if you're mobile to actually the caption. We have the same bio. Again, things to be consistent, and yeah, there are videos we have posted, but as you can see, these videos are more short and aren't necessarily the long videos that are on YouTube. And a cool thing about Instagram is that you can post multiple pictures at once. It's not going to look right now, but that's a good thing to do if you have like a thing from an event and you want to have like multiple pictures in the same day. Something to take note of. Facebook. Facebook is kind of confusing as you see for the first time. There are quite a few things going on. Here's our page. We have the same banner as Twitter. And Facebook is organized by posts mainly, but it's kind of difficult to actually get to your posts and things like that. There's posts here, see photos, and as I talked about, Instagram is linked to our Facebook account. So you can post videos and live stream to Facebook, which we are doing right now actually. And it's a good platform to reach out to businesses because most businesses on the page. A lot of your posts should have media involved with them. We have a bunch of albums from our various events we've done to kind of give everyone an idea. So yeah, Facebook has definitely a smaller audience though, because compared to our other platforms, there's a quite small following on this one because there are less FEC teams who do actively interact with our teams on Facebook. Here's our YouTube channel. On YouTube, most of our videos will be longer and more edited here. We had to edit these channel shows together. It is okay now and then to have, for example, like lay a quick video on your cell phone up just to get your information out there. But that really isn't what YouTube is mainly for. We're going to want to stick to longer videos. Here's our robot reveal from last season. We also have a little team update video here. Any videos that you've seen at competitions and so on. And there is one thing here that is going to be very useful. Yeah, so there's a service called If This and That, IFTTT. Go to ifttt.com. We're signed in right now. What's great about this, basically what this platform does is it links all of these services together. So there are ones for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, really anything you can think of, even just things outside of social media. It's an excellent service to be looking at. So we have things are called applets, where basically it'll do an action on one service when something happens. So for example, we have to keep a record of every time a team uses our handle on Twitter called a mention. So whenever a tweet has @the FCC is then logged into a spreadsheet on Google Drive. Every tweet we send is logged to a spreadsheet on Google Drive. Just make sure we keep a record of that, seeing what's being deleted. So we also save our photos on Instagram to Google Drive, so we have an easy place to access them, so that we don't like take a picture, put it on Instagram, and lose where it is, and not be able to re-download it. As you see here, this also links our Instagram to our Facebook and page photo album. And yeah, you can really search anything you like. See, there are several services here. Search for Twitter, for example. A bunch of applets here. So yeah, this is a great service to be looking at as you begin to create your social media profiles, because being able to post one thing somewhere and then have it be everywhere else gives you a lot of time and any inconsistencies that could happen. Like say if you post a picture on Twitter, but you also want it on your Instagram, there is an applet to do that for you. Say if you post something on Facebook, it'll automatically then feed to your Twitter with a link to that post and as much text as it can fit. Yeah, great service to be keeping in mind as you get into set up your profiles and such. Try and follow as many teams as you can. Interact with posts, reply to them, like them, retweet things that are important and interesting. At this point, open it up for any questions anyone has. If anyone wants to any questions on social media, creating a brand, how to create a logo, determine things like that.
How many people actually like control or have access to your social media? So like on your team, who is in charge of posting? Who's in charge of maintaining?
Well, we all have the login information for our profile, just being logged into them, but usually I mainly handle our Twitter, Reagan handles our Instagram, Ellie and Anthony handle our Facebook, and usually if there's something that someone wants me to post on Twitter, they'll ask me, and then I'll create a tweet for it. So it is good to have a team that is responsible for posting on social media, so that way people aren't posting things randomly without anyone knowing. So.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming to our session today.